The Hand That Rocks the Cradle is a remake of the 1992 movie of the same name starring Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Maika Monroe. But short of the premises of the two films being similar from a macro sense, both involving a revenge-seeking nanny, the films couldn't be more different. Now, this modern reimagining changes the setting of the story, adds more character backstories, incorporates contemporary themes, and adds a bit of a mystery element to boot. The remake updates the story, taking it from 1990 Seattle and moving it to modern-day Los Angeles with characters who have more developed backstories, both with big secrets than the more straightforwardly innocent characters from the original film. Now, this movie was a bit of a slog, I'm going to tell you guys right out of the gate. It plays extremely slow, especially throughout the first act. Now, after that, the plot does get moving a bit, and from a macro sense, it moves along quite well enough until about halfway through, when the logistics of the story that we're being told start to fail in a major way. No doubt, simply so the characters will do what the writer needs them to in order for the story to continue. And this is where I take major issue with some of the narrative changes that were made concerning the original movie, especially as it pertains to the main characters and their backstories in particular. By making the backstories of the protagonists and antagonists so much more complex, the story doesn't have a simple victim and perpetrator as the story progresses like it does in the original film, thereby making it clear who is right and who is wrong, ultimately providing the audience with a clear rooting interest as it pertains to how the story ends. Here, the situation has two extremely complex victims, and they're pointed at each other, and it simply made the best woman win. And that might be okay if this story had a more ambiguous ending, but it doesn't. There's a clear winner when this story cuts to black, and it leaves you with a bit of an uneasy feeling like maybe not everybody got what they truly deserved. The film, being a remake, was fairly predictable, even down to the smaller plot points, even with the changes that had been made. And the opening image was effective in providing a bit of mystery, ultimately leading up to one hell of a motive for Polly's nefarious actions. Now, overall, I'd give this film a 65%, or a 6.5 out of 10 if you're thinking IMDb score, effectively a C- for a letter grade. This movie is a big part of the reason why I think remakes and reboots are usually bad ideas from a narrative perspective, because the original films typically do a much better job of setting up the premises. Mostly because when you take a movie out of the time period in which it was made and you try to modernize it, you lose something along the way, almost no matter what you do. And this film is no exception, because when you compare it to the film that came before it, it doesn't quite hold up. And even though the original film isn't exactly revered on the aggregate sites, it was, at the very least, culturally impactful enough to warrant a remake to begin with.